Hi everyone, welcome to NJGAAE Presents. Today we are with Mofsie and Julia, and you've seen both of them before through various things. And I'm Jocelyn Jeffries, you all know me. You're going to see me every Friday as normal. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Julia.
Hello, I am Julia, the Programs and Marketing Assistant at ArtsEd New Jersey, and I'm working really closely this year on the Governor's Awards. We're on the Governor's Awards YouTube channel and Facebook right now, and I'm really excited, really excited to join Jocelyn today to talk with the amazing Louis Mofsie, who is going to be our MC this year.
Woo!
So, Louis, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, I think amazing is a fantastic word to talk. I've never been called amazing, so that's a first. My name is Louis Mofsie. I am the director of the Thunderbird American Indian Dance Company, and I'm also a retired art teacher. I taught art for 35 years, not in New Jersey. I was teaching art out on Long Island. But after I retired, we moved to New Jersey. And myself, I am Native American. My father is from the Hopi tribe from Arizona, and my mother is from the Winnebago tribe, and they come from Nebraska. And I myself was born in Brooklyn, New York, which is kind of interesting. So I'm a New Yorker, a Brooklynite at that. And I've lived here all of my life, although I have gone back to my father's reservation and my mother's reservation quite often, because as part of the program that we do with our dance company, we go to many different reservations and to many different tribes to learn the songs and dances that we do in our presentations.
Wow, so we're going to get into all of that right now. I'm really super excited. And so we have a bunch of questions, and anyone in the audience, please let us know if you have any questions. Just put it in the chat, and we want to see you through your words. So with that, I want to move on to our first question. So when did you win the Governor's Awards, and what was that like for you?
It was last year. The last year award I won, and I was really very surprised, number one, and very happy, number two, because I said, it's really interesting. I always say, I gotten quite a few awards from many different places. I got one of the Bessie Awards and New York American Dance Theater Awards. But I always said they give it to me, but it's really, I always accept it on behalf of the company, because I think it's the company that's really being recognized. And I have been, very happy to be working with them. We have been working for many years, and they're very loyal, and they're very giving in what they do. And so I say, it's because they have always been, ready to do different kinds of programs. And we go to many schools throughout New Jersey and New York and do performances. We also do workshops with the boys and girls in the classrooms. And I said, it's really great that the company through me in giving us those awards. And I think it's terrific because we're probably the only, well, I know that we're the oldest resident Native American dance company in New York. We go back, I think now it's 57 years. And we've been together for all that time. And we've been doing this kind of work. And I said, it's really great that we have been recognized at this point for the work that we're doing. And I was telling when I received the Bessie Award, which I was really, honored to get, about dance in America, which is what that is all about, modern dance, traditional dance, whatever kind of dance. I said, and recognize the Thunderbird American Indian dancers, you're really recognizing the original, the first dance in America. And I think a lot of people don't think about that. But I said, yes, the dance in America started with Native American dancing, and is still very intense today. We're still doing it, not only through our dance company, but on the reservations, the ceremonies and dances they have, this goes back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And so I said, we've been here, we've been dancing all this time.
You were the pioneer of dance. You were the start of dance.
Well, I think in New York City we were. I think in New York we were. And I think one of the reasons we're so busy now is because there isn't really any Native American dance company in this area. I think there are a few out west, but I'm not sure about how many of them travel around. But we travel around, and we've been on tour in Japan, which was fantastic. We've been on tour in Israel, and we've toured all over the United States and Canada. And I think, we're one of the more popular dance companies, Native American dance companies, because there aren't too many of them around.
So you've been part of the Thunderbird dance for so long. What was it? Did you start it, or was it the group that started it? And how did that go down, essentially?
I'll tell you how we started. As I said, I was born in Brooklyn, and I had a sister and a brother, and we were living in a neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York, which had a community of Mohawk ironworkers. I don't know how many people know about that, but the Mohawk, which are a group, one of the tribes of the Iroquois group in upstate New York and Canada, they were well known for being ironworkers. And they helped putting up the Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, the George Washington Bridge, and many of the big skyscrapers in New York City. There were many, many Mohawk ironworkers who worked on those buildings. So while they were in the city working on these buildings, they would live close to work. And they had this little community in Brooklyn, New York. And it was downtown, I think, on Pacific Street. And as Native Americans, we weren't Mohawk, of course, but because we knew this community of Native people, we moved very, very close to them on Pacific Street. And it was our family, and then there was a family of San Blas Native American people. They come from down in a group of islands off the coast of Panama. And there were some Pueblo people there from Santo Domingo, some Chickahominy people from Virginia, who were also kind of settling in that area because it was a Native American community. Well, we grew up there, and as we got older, we were teenagers. We started to dance. We learned dances and songs from our families, and we would get together and we would start dancing. And we said, why don't we start a little dance company? And we got together at a very famous church in New York, actually, down in Brooklyn. It was called the Kyla Church. And the minister, Reverend Corey, he learned how to speak the Mohawk language, and he learned how to read the Mohawk language. And so he had the community there come to his church, and he would give the sermons and so on, the hymns and everything in the Mohawk language. So when we associated, of course, very much with the Mohawk people there because we were so close. And so we said that we wanted to start this little dance group. And he said, well, please come down to the church. You're welcome to come to the church and use any of the space that you need. You want to get together for meetings, you want to get together for rehearsals, come here and use the church. So that's how we started. There were about, 5 or 6 of us from different tribes. And then we had, of course, many of the young people in the Mohawk community join in this group. So we started there. And then after we finished going through school and graduated from high school and started going off to college, as I did. I went to college in Buffalo, New York. So we were away for about 4 or 5 years. And then after we came back, we decided we wanted to get back together again and start the dance group. And so we started the dance group. And the small group that we had, the first group we called ourselves the Little Eagles. And we got that name because one of the people that we knew was from the Sioux tribe in South Dakota. And he said, I think I'm going to give you the name Wambali Chikala, which in the Sioux language means little eagles, he said, because you're really a great little bunch of kids, And he was really happy to teach us many of the dances and songs that come from his tribe. So we were called Little Eagles. And when we got back together again, and we said, okay, we're grown up now, so we don't want to be called Little Eagles. We took on the name of Thunderbird. Now, Thunderbird is a mythical bird, and they say when it flaps its wings, that's the sound of the thunder, and when it opens its mouth, that's the lightning coming out. And so I said, that sounds like a pretty good name. It also is a clan. Now, I had to explain about that. I have two other names. I have a Hopi name from the Hopi tribe, and I have a Winnebago name from the Winnebago tribe. My Hopi name is Cloud Standing Straight in the Sky, and my Winnebago name is Green Rainbow. Now, among the Winnebago people, when a couple gets married, the children belong to the mother's side of the family. They take the mother's clan, not the father's. They take the mother's clan. My mother, and the clan, of course, is a group of people, a smaller group of people within the larger tribe. Okay. My mother's clan was the Thunderbird clan. And anyone who belongs to the Thunderbird clan, their names had to have something to do with the sky. And so my mother's name was Morning Star. My sister's name was Silver Cloud. My brother's name was Rolling Thunder. And my name was Green Rainbow. So we took on the name of Thunderbirds because that was our clan, my clan name. So we called ourselves the Thunderbirds after we got together after going to college. And so from that point on, we said that, okay, we've learned the songs and dances from our families. We wanted to travel now and learn the songs and dances of many, many different tribes all over the country. So we decided that we would travel during the summertime when we had the time to travel, to go to different reservations and different places. And that's how we started to build our repertoire of dances. And so we brought those dances back to New York. And we decided to do a concert, stage dance performance, where we would do all of these different dances. And one of the things that we wanted to do, which we thought was so important, was that when you see Native American dancing, many people have no idea whatsoever what they're looking at. And we wanted to make sure that when you looked at these dances, that you would understand why they were done, where they come from. We also would dress in the traditional regalia of that particular tribe so that you would see in the performance that there was a tremendous variety of dances that come from all over the country. We even traveled up to Alaska to learn the dances of the Inuit people. And we dress in the outfits that they wear. And so when we came back to New York, in the concert, you would see all of these different tribes and all of these different styles of dancing. And what I do in the program is before the dance begins, I explain what it is, where it comes from, what it means, and what it has to do, with the people. And I have so often got comments from people after the performance. They said, thank you so much for explaining all of these. It's been just wonderful to find out what these dances are all about and what they mean to the people. And so that now they have a greater understanding, a greater appreciation too for Native American dance. And so that's how we got the name Thunderbirds and how we started as Little Eagles.
So, how does your name get picked? Your Hopi name, your other names. How do they get picked? Besides them being like in the theme of they have to be through the sky, how do they get picked?
Well, in the tribes, there are in the Winnebago tribe, the clan, and a representative from the clan, one of my uncles from the clan, he was the one who gave me that name. Now, among the Hopis, it's very different. Since my mother wasn't Hopi, I had to take the Winnebago clan name. But when I went to the Hopi tribe, my mother wasn't Hopi. So my uncle there, he said, okay, so we're going to give you a name that's associated with my clan, which was the Blue Flute clan. Now, the Blue Flute clan, they alternate each year with and I think it's the odd years, they have what they call the flute ceremony. And in the even years, they have what they call the snake dance. And both of these dances are done to ask the Creator to bring rain. So anyone whose name has to do with either one of these clans, their names again have to have something to do with rain. And so they call me Cloud Standing Straight in the Sky, because they say among the Hopi people, they believe when they see a certain formation in the sky of the clouds standing straight, that's a sign that rain is going to be coming soon. And so that's why I'm called Cloud Standing Straight in the Sky on the Hopi side of the family.
Oh.
Now, in fact,
that I was just going to comment that seems very like hopeful, like you are going to bring the rain, and that's a very positive thing. That's, it's beautiful.
But kind of funny too, because in the Winnebago language, green rainbow is, they say it's Wambali Chikla, not Wambali Chikla. I'm trying to think now. In the Winnebago language, it's not actually green rainbow. In the Winnebago language, what it means is the first color you see when the rainbow forms is green. So to shorten it, we say green rainbow. And I'm very curious about that. Is that true? And of course, trying to sit and watch when a rainbow forms is not easy. But I did it one day, and I'm sitting there waiting, and when okay, I know it rained, it drizzled a little bit, and I said the sun is out, so I know there's going to be a rainbow someplace. And I was watching and watching and watching. Sure enough, the first color I saw was green, and I said, "Whoa!" Now that was a surprise.
Wow!
I did not know that. That's amazing. It rains, it rained today, but the next time I'm going to go out and look and think of you.
Yeah, you have to sit there and wait for the rainbow to come first.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like that's the thing with. That's just like I've never would have thought about it.
Yeah. Ever. Well, I think obviously the native people are so much more in touch with nature than we are today. And, a lot of little things like that a person wouldn't think about. But I said, they were so much aware of all of those things that went on. I said that's, you can find those things. But, we don't take the time. I don't know how many people would take the time today to sit down and see when a rainbow forms.
When, are there any like specific things that you do to stay in touch with nature, or anything which you were taught growing up, which you either still do or it's passed from, like you don't do it anymore, but you did it growing up, which helped you stay in touch with nature?
I wish I could say yes, but actually I was raised in Brooklyn, New York. It's a little hard to be in touch with nature, but I think through the dances, we have been able to learn a great deal about it. And what's expressed in many of the dances aren't based on what happens in nature. We do one of the dances in the program is called the Hopi Eagle Dance. And this is, again, I often tell people too this. A lot of the dances that the people do from the Southwest are mistakenly called rain dances. I said, and there isn't any dance that anyone can do that's going to make it rain. That just doesn't happen. I said, these dances that are called rain dances, we call prayer dances. These are dances that the people do to bring the rain. Now, why is the rain so important out in Arizona and New Mexico? I say it's because the people are an agricultural people. They depend upon their crops for their food. And of course, one of the only places you're going to get water to grow your crops out in the desert is from the rain. So many of the dances they do are prayer dances, asking the Creator to bring them rain. This particular dance that I'm talking about right now is called the Eagle Dance. And they say among the Hopi people, when you see an eagle flying very, very high in the sky and doing very particular kind of movements, that's a sign that rain is going to be coming. So in the dancer moves and imitates those movements of the eagle, which is how they're praying to bring the rain. So that's one of the things I think that, of course, again, has to do with nature. And you have to observe the eagle and watch. When you see him flying in a certain way, is that an indication that rain is going to be coming? And so there you see that. One of the other things we do in our performance is a dance from the Iroquois people, and it's called the Robin Dance. And this is a dance that they do at the beginning of the spring season to welcome the springtime. And in the dance, the dancers actually hop, which is an imitation of a robin hopping on the ground. And there's certain steps in it where you hop. And I said, now, is that really true? Does a robin really hop like that? And once again, I went out to, I think it was Prospect Park, and I stood there with a friend of mine, and we were watching these robins, of course, and the robins didn't come till around the first part of spring, around March. And they were up in the trees, and finally they came down and they landed on the ground. And they started to hop. And sure enough, they did exactly what we do in the dance. Hop, 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 hop. And I said, I didn't believe that either. But there again, is through that observation in nature and seeing how that happens that was incorporated into the dance. And that goes along with a lot of the other dances too. So I think through the dancing, you can begin to see how these things all relate, as you said, to nature and how your surroundings are. And of course, we don't think about that today. Once again, how many people would take the time to watch a robin fly down from a tree and hop, And one of the other things that we found in one of our residencies in dancing, teaching dancing to some of the school children, I think it was a fourth grader who raised his hand. He said, you know why the robins hop like that? And I said, no, I really hadn't thought about why they hop that way. And he said, well, when it rains in the springtime, the water hits the ground and it goes down into the earth, and the worms, because they think it's a flood, come up to the top and they come out. And he said, so when the robins hop on the ground like that, they're imitating the sound of rain coming down, and it fools the worms, and the worms come out. So the robins have something to eat. And I said, now that is interesting.
That is interesting.
So it's kind of fun because, you in the classrooms, and it's great, in the classrooms, dealing with the children, you learn something from them all the time.
Absolutely. So did you learn this fun fact from when you were teaching or when you were going in as a special guest?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, both. Yeah. I think, of course, teaching is, and particularly art teaching for me was incredible. I mean, the enthusiasm that children have when they come in and what they want, the things they just want to get into doing things right away.
Yeah.
And I always think of it, I said, as art teachers, whether it's with, younger children or with high school students or whatever, you're actually there, you're giving these students the tools. You're providing the tools. And it's the children who are creative, what they do with all of those things, which is so incredible. And I was talking about the Governor's Award last year and watching the program and all of these different students who also got awards, to watch them and perform or to show you their work or whatever it was that they were doing, to see the satisfaction and the joy that they had in just being there and showing you these things. And it's just so fantastic because you look at them and say, what talented people they are. And I said, I think that's what it's all about. The art education, is one of the things that provides that outlet for them. And I think that is so essential. And I always feel so bad when, in school programs, when they start cutting budgets, the first things to go are the arts. And I said, that's such an important part of anyone, growing up and learning. I said, and that is such a vital thing. And I said, I'm just so happy that I could, teach what I could teach them, and to see what they did, and it's not like it's like what was it what they had years ago where you color by numbers.
Oh yeah.
It's not like that at all. I said, you show the children how to use these tools, and they're the ones who do the creation, and that's what makes it so great. Yeah. And I have to say, I taught for 35 years, and I loved every minute of it. And I said, and the other thing about teaching, I said, is so fantastic. No day is the same. One day is always different from the next. And I had an opportunity, because I was an art teacher, not to teach just one class, but I taught every class in the school, which also is like a variety, from K to 6 or from 6 to 12, those grades. And I said, it changed all the time. So you wouldn't have everything the same, every time. It was just terrific.
And you got to see a range of students, I imagine. You got to see all different types of people. I think that's one of my favorite parts about teaching is you get to interact with such a pure form of a human. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think it's particularly with the young children, the elementary school kids. They're still themselves. They're still who they are. They're not so influenced by too many things yet.
Yeah.
And so much comes out of them. And I said, it's just, and I think it's like you're seeing a real expression of something that's really down inside of them. That's their real expression is showing you. And I said, that's so great to be able to do that and to encourage them, and to help them keep doing that. I think that's so important.
So speaking of childhood, we have a comment right here, which I'll read. It's from Priscilla, who has been on the stream, who I imagine you know, who is just around. She's a big part of Arts at NJ. She said, I grew up attending the American Indian Arts Festival in Rancocas in NJ every year. I enjoyed watching the various dances, and that event had an impact on me as a child. I wish that festival was still around for my children. I'm so glad to know that your group provides residencies for children to have that amazing experience.
Oh yes, I am happy too that we can do that. I think it's so important in many ways for us to go into the classroom and actually, work with the children and for them to meet a real Native American person. I think that's important because in the past, it's getting better now, but in the past, when the boys and girls learned about Native American people, it was always in the past tense. It was always like, this is how they used to live. This is how they used to eat. This is how they used to take care of their children. This is how they used to do this and do that. And of course, what that tells the kid is they're no longer around. They're all gone. So when they meet you, it's like, you can't be real. Who you are. And of course, the other thing that they find out is you're not wearing feathers, and you're not wearing skins, you're not wearing beads. So, you don't look like the people I see in the books. So I think it's great, that they have an opportunity to meet us in person and for us to work with them. And I had such, I think it was a fourth grader too, one time said to me, I just was so impressed by what he said. He said, I want to thank you so much for coming to our classroom, and thank you so much for, helping us do all of these different things. But I just want to tell you one thing. And I said, what is it? And he said, it's not because I don't think of you just as a Native American person. He said, I think you're one of the nicest human beings I've ever met.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh.
And I said, that I was just like, that is so terrific. And I said, and of course, when you're a teacher, you know this, you don't hear an awful lot from a lot of the children because they're just too shy or whatever to speak to you. But, I said, you're making a terrific impression on them, and I think that's terrific. And that's hard.
Absolutely. So I had a question, but I forgot it at the moment. So I wanted to also ask, you have all the dances memorized?
Yes. Yes. I surprise myself sometimes when we do a performance that I can remember all of the songs that go with each of the particular dances. And not only that, they come from different tribes. So it's not just my tribe. And so it takes, and sometimes I do have to take, before the program goes on, just to go through them myself very quickly so that I know exactly which one is going to come next, what song goes with which dance, and so forth. And it takes a lot of time when we learn a new dance or song. And it took us many, many, many weeks and months even when we went up to Alaska and started doing the Inuit dances and songs, because they're so different from down here in, the lower states. So it took us time to learn that, and the gestures and the movements, which are very interesting because they don't do a lot of movement with their feet. And we were wondering why, it's kind of interesting because down here in many of the dances, we move around a lot with our feet. Mm-hmm. But up there, it was very stationary. Mm-hmm. And we're trying, to understand why. And they do a lot with their arms and their hands and the gestures of their face and so on. Why was it that they didn't move around a lot? And I said, well, now when you think about, years ago, going back hundreds of years, you think about where these people live, okay? If you want to think about it, think about an igloo. Is there a lot of room to move around in an igloo? No. So what happens? You start dancing in one place and you start moving your arms I said that is one of the reasons why these dances are not moving around a lot. But if you think about where it comes from, the area it comes from, and when we talk about what we wear, among the Southwestern people out in Arizona and New Mexico, they don't use a lot of beads. They're weavers. And what they wear are kilts, they wear sashes that they weave. They don't use a lot of beadwork. Among the Plains people, they use a lot of beadwork because beads were introduced to them, and they started making a lot of their designs out of beads. But before that, it's kind of interesting, they used porcupine quills that they would dye, and they would punch those into the material, and they would use that to make their designs. So each area has a different kind of, a way of dressing. They had different kinds of materials that they would use, and how they dress has a lot to do with it too. So it's kind of interesting because among the Inuit people up in Alaska, when they do the dances, the women, they hold in their hand fans, but these fans aren't made out of feathers. These fans are made out of the whiskers that come from a caribou. And they're beautiful. It's just, you think about it, it's just amazing to see all the differences. And so, yes, it takes a while to learn, but we've been doing the dancing now for many, many years, and I've pretty much gotten all of them together.
So, did you say, sorry, I had to plug in my computer. Did you say that someone made outfits out of bees?
What's that?
Out of bees?
Beads.
Oh, bees. I was like, whoa, someone's making something out of bees?
Yeah, my Brooklyn accent.
No, it's good. It totally makes sense. So I remembered the question, and the question was, what do you think the change has been? Because you said that it's been getting better most recently. What do you think has been changing that?
In the schools.
Yeah, and then kids my age and younger, their understanding of just Indigenous people's culture.
Yeah, I think it's happened with and I think it's great, with a lot of cultures. We're getting to know much more about people than we used to. I think part of it is because we have television, we have computers now, we have iPhones and everything else. But I think people are more aware and more considerate, more sensitive to different things. I mean, was this whole thing about why don't you want to call, football teams the Redskins or other, names? And I said, I think people are more aware of the fact now. I said, would you like a team to be called the Black Skins or the Yellow Skins or the White Skins? How would that make you feel? And I think they can understand, why that makes Native people a little angry when you're talking about, well, the Redskins are okay. That's okay. No, it's not okay. All right. I think too that there's been a lot of books written now about Native people. I think that a far like Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, I think begins to get you understand what this is all about. And of course, back in the 60s, when all these different movements were going on, there was AIM, American Indian Movement was going on, where they started going into, different areas and talking about, okay, this is not good. This is not right. I mean, this is something that has to be changed. And of course, I think now, which I think is incredible, we have a Native American Secretary of the Interior who was part of, the Native people again. So things are changing in that way. And I think that's good. And I think people are beginning to understand that. And I always tell the children this in the school too, in the program says, Native American history is part of your history. Mm-hmm. It's part of American history. It's part of what this country is all about. And we should not forget it or neglect it because it's part of what is this country. And I said, in the past, it's been a very bad history. I mean, when the first Europeans came over here, what happened to the Native American populations disappeared. I mean, land was taken. Native people way back then had no concept of owning land. It was to be shared. And when they started taking land, they couldn't understand, why are you doing that? What is that all about? You're welcome to use the land. You're welcome to come here, use it as we do. But they didn't understand, we want to own the land. We don't understand what that means. The land belongs to everyone. Mm-hmm. And I think that, it's something that we don't think about. We don't think about.
The idea that everything is everything, and nothing is nothing, is something that I love to meditate on. And it's something that's completely lost in modern culture, where everything is valuable and everything is part of everything. And then nothing doesn't matter. Nothing is nothing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, it's something that a lot of people don't think about, as you say. But I think too, in our programs, people kind of get back into, okay, there are things that we haven't thought about. Mm-hmm. There are things that these people, Native American people, in the dances, we're keeping a lot of these things alive. And I think that's important too. And what we always enjoy too after a program is for people to come and ask questions. And that's, because there's and I like that because it shows that now I'm getting interested. I'm getting a little more interested now. Maybe I want to find out a little more. And I think that's good. I think that's good.
So I know, so you mentioned that you represent all different tribes when you do your performances, when your group does their performances. So I think it's very valuable that you are spreading this true information about these groups, because I feel like there is a lot of misinformation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. I think that one of the things I think that happens with a lot of people is that if you were born in Brooklyn, New York, you can't be a real Native American because all of the Native American people come from the West. Anything beyond, west of the Mississippi, that's real. On this side, there are no Indians. Right here in New York City, there are probably over about 75 or 100,000 Native Americans. Most people don't know that. That's just in the 5 boroughs of New York. Not too far from here in upstate New York is where the Iroquois people live. There are 9 reservations where they live today in upstate New York in Canada. There's a reservation here out on the tip of Long Island where the Shinnecock people live. Right here, not more than an hour and a half from New York City, a reservation where Native American people live, okay? So I think people don't understand that because they're so influenced or have been influenced by what they've seen in the movies or so on, that all of the Native people are out west. They're not here in this area. But I think, that's changing too. I think people are beginning to realize that, yes, right here in New York City, there are Native American people. And we have American Indian Community House here. And that's our community center in New York City. And we have Native people that come from all over the country that come to New York to find employment, to go to school, whatever. We have people that come to New York, artists that are actors, dancers, whatever. They come to New York City, to find a career. So there's a lot of Native people in New York, and that's something I think a lot of people are beginning to realize now too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's fascinating. So that made me wonder about, so for clans and tribes and the groups, what is the average amount of people per, like, what is like the group number for each?
Some are very, very big. I mean, the Navajo tribe is the largest, I think, in the country. The reservation is over 4 states: Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, and I think Colorado. 4 states. They're the biggest tribe. I think the next biggest tribe is the Sioux people in South and North Dakota. And then, of course, it goes down from there. But I'm very happy to say that, though, today there are a little over 5 million Native American people in the United States. But I always tell people that that's just in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
I said our homeland, where our people come from, is 2 continents. 2 continents, North America and South America. That's where the Native American people come from. And I tell them I have no idea how many Native people there are in Canada. I have no idea how many there are in Mexico, and I certainly have no idea how many Native people there are in South America. But I don't think I'd be too wrong if I were to tell you that today, in 2021, there are millions of Native American people living in North and South America. And I always tell them, go and take a look at a world map and see how large North America and South America are compared to Europe.
Mm.
I said the other thing to remember too is that we don't all look the same.
Mm-hmm.
Look different. We come in different sizes, we come in different shapes, and we come in different colors.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the rest of the world, if you take someone from way up in Norway and then go down to the tip of South America, do those people look the same? No. Well, we don't look the same either. You shouldn't expect us all look the same. And I think those are things that people don't think about. You look at North America and South America, it goes from the North Pole to the South Pole almost. That's a huge amount of land.
Yeah.
Well, that's where we come from.
A lot of different climates and a lot of different living styles, which is so fascinating to mention when you're talking about the dances, because you mentioned there's differences on how you were able to dance when you are in upper North America versus lower South America. And it's just like really thinking about the details of it and thinking about the, like, I find from this discussion, and I'm sure you will this will be a very obvious statement to you, but your culture and the culture in general seems like it's very based in detail, and that's something that is completely lacking in our modern culture of America, like America's modern culture, and in general, because details are things which are sometimes hard to focus on.
Oh, sure.
And so it's just amazing to notice, like, the like minute things that make life, and that single thread in the tapestry.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I think, people, I think here, New York City and this country is so amazing because there's so many different kinds of people that are here, and so many different backgrounds and so many different heritages and so many, things that connect people and make people different. But there's so many things that make people come together and be the same. And I think that's what makes this place so terrific. And I always, I've loved traveling, like to Japan and to Israel, and to meet different people. But these countries are like, Japan, of course, is, Japanese. But Israel is a very different kind of country too, because there are people there that came from all over the world. And I have to say, I enjoyed Israel. I remember this so much because I said the people in Israel are so vibrant. They are so vibrant. They have a certain kind of energy that is so different from many other countries. And I said it's because these people have found a place, a land, or whatever you want to call it, that's theirs, that makes them go back again to their history. You know, this is where we belong. And talk about the people in Israel. Here in this country, it's the same with Native Americans. This is our home. This is where we come from. This is where we belong. You know, and we don't come from someplace else like other people in this country. We came from here. This is where we come from. This is our place. And I think, you know, people, as you said before, you know, don't think about things like that, but that's the truth. And you know, we'll tell you what the truth is. I said, I won't say that. Don't forget it.
So it's amazing that we've forgotten. You know what I mean? Like and it's back to the details again, but we've forgotten that this is something that I talk about a lot too, and I imagine you've experienced this, and I imagine Julia too, and just anyone who's interacted with another human being, is we've forgotten that other people are people. Like it's something that I specifically meditate on, and I imagine other people specifically meditate on, that other people have a whole life that is not part of yours. Other people have a whole life that they did things in beforehand. Good, bad, mediocre, normal, boring, exciting, everything.
Yeah.
And the only way that you'll be able to understand them as much as you can is by interacting and engaging. And that's something that is so fascinating about your Thunderbird troop, like that you are giving that experience and you are reaching out and saying, here, have this. This is something that we find valuable, and we want you to see that it's valuable too. And that's just so wonderful.
Yeah, I do mention when you talk about that, we have a what we call a powwow, which is a Native American gathering. There's nothing, and I always mention that too when we do programs. We don't do anything that is sacred or ceremonial. Those are separate things. And I said the only people who would do that are the people from that reservation. The only people who would be allowed to even see that or anything else are people from that reservation who belong to that particular religion. It's not open to the public. What we do are social dances, and that's what we do, not anything else but social dances. But at our power gathering, we have it every July. We're having it this July. We didn't do it last year, of course, but at the Queens County Farm Museum on Long Island. It's in the city of New York, actually, in Queens. And we end the power every evening. We have a big bonfire, which is fantastic. And we end the evening by singing songs, and we invite the audience to come in and join us. Now, they've been there for about an hour and a half or 2 hours watching the other dances. And so I said, okay, now we're going to invite you to come in and dance with us. And we do a big circle. We have the big circle, and it goes around the fire. And I said, you may come into the circle. We ask you to respect the circle, certainly. We don't want you to come in and play. This is not play. This is to dance to the music. And so we start playing the music, the drums, and the people come into the circle, and they start moving. I said, you could just feel the rhythm, feel the music inside, and just move how you want to move, but move in the circle. And it's amazing. I mean, I've seen maybe 1,000 people out there dancing. And what's so great about it, as I see the mother, the father, the kids dancing, the uncles, the aunts, the grandmothers, and the grandfathers, they're all out there dancing together. And I said, now, where else could you go where a family, generations could get together and dance? And they said, not only that, you're dancing to the original Native American music that came from this country. And you're dancing, and they're smiling, and they are just having a great time. And I said, that is what the powwow is all about. That is what this means. It's bringing people together to enjoy something together, to respect each other, and to have a good time. And It's just amazing. I feel so good when I see families out there dancing together. I said, I don't see that many places.
There's something so transformative and healing about that. So my brother, he's very interested in living as cleanly as possible, and as he just, like, he goes out into the woods and he just lives there for a week and stuff like that, which is very, very fascinating, very valuable. But something he always talks about is blood memory. And so when we're like around a fire, or we hear music that we just can't help but dance to, that's
Right.
our blood memory going, hey, this is something that is connected to you. This is something that you're connected to, and you should engage with it. And I
Right.
think your group, and you have tapped into that,
Yeah.
and for an entire culture that has lost it.
Yeah. I think it is true. And I think I also, part of our program, we give classes in dance and music. And a lot of times when people come to classes, they say, I can't dance. I said, you can dance. Don't think about it. Don't even think about it. I said, you can dance. And so as we go along, and we start with very simple little steps and movements and everything else. But and I think you're so right. It's true. They're moving. And I said, don't think about calling it dance. Just move and feel the rhythms and everything else. And they're moving and they're dancing. I said, oh, so see, you can dance. But when you say dance, don't think about ballet or think about modern dancing. That isn't necessarily what dance is. It's feeling how you move. I said moving. I said that, and moving to rhythms and moving to sounds. That's what dancing is all about. And I said the same with singing, because we do singing as well. And before they leave the class, they're singing. I said, but the one thing you have to remember about singing, I said, when we're teaching you, don't get out of your mind trying to sing like a Native American. That's not what we're here for. just start, letting your voice go. And I think people don't take the time, certainly, to do things like that. I think, and where can you go to just move and dance? I think it's something that we don't do a lot of. I wish we did more of it. And I wish there were more places that you could go, just to maybe sit in an audience as we do at the powwow and just get up at the end and dance. There aren't that many opportunities, but I think that's such an important part. And I love that part of the powwow. I mean, I honestly, when I leave after it's over, I feel so good. It really makes me feel good to see that. And I said, I'm glad we're doing it. I'm glad we're doing it.
So I've been so overcome by questions. I even have some more specifically about dancing, but I want to pass it over to Julia. And if you have any questions or comments, because I've just been completely just like so enthralled with thoughts.
You're the pro, Jocelyn. You've got the best questions always. I do have one though. I loved hearing your the Thunderbird Dancers origin story, and it's incredible that the company has been along for so many years. Do you have any favorite or most memorable performances that stand out in your mind?
Oh, I think we have done so many. I mean, we've been at Carnegie Hall. We've been at so many different places. One that outstanding, the most to me. I really can't think of any. I think all of them have been exciting to me. I think for me, the ones I enjoy the most, though, the ones I really enjoy the most are with the little children. The ones when we go in to a school and we have little kindergarten students sitting and watching. And as the program is going along, I see the children just sitting there watching. They're starting to move their heads to the rhythms. They're starting to tap their knees to the rhythm. They're starting to move their feet to the rhythm. And it's just so great. And it's not like they're just doing this. They're doing it to a rhythm. They're doing it to a particular kind of drum beat or a song. And I think that makes me feel so good, because I said, what you're doing, you're not thinking about it. I said, maybe. Now, what we're doing as they're watching us perform, you're making this relationship with them, not only of the music and the dance, but you're making this relationship. These are Native American people. These are the Indians, if you want to call it that. And they're seeing it now as little kids. And they're going to go back as they get older and they say, I remember when we had those Native Americans come. And I remember what they were doing and how they danced and their music. And I think that's something that stays with them. And I said, I think that's so great because I think, and I think it's great at any point for a young audience, young children, to see a dance performance. It may be the only time in their life that they're ever taken to see a dance performance. I said, but that is so important. And I said, that's what makes me really feel good. And I think with the little ones, the children, I enjoy those the most.
Absolutely. That's great. So we have to start closing down soon, but with that, I really, which is just a travesty because you have so much information and so many stories. And it's just so fascinating to talk to you. But an hour is an hour. But I wanted to get what is your advice? Because you talk about children and you talk about your experience with just everything in general. What is some advice you have for maybe specifically younger people, but just in general humans? What from just your life?
I think people have to be open. Number one, they have to be open and willing to experience many different things. I mean, it may not be something, as I said before, you may not think about yourself as a dancer or a singer or an artist or whatever it might be, or a musician, whatever it might be. I think you have to be open and let yourself experience those things. And I think, not to be afraid of doing them or not to be afraid of people, saying, oh, that's terrible, or, this is no good, or, why do you call yourself this, or why do you call that? I think it's because it's something that you'll find. I think what you said before is true. You find that little something in yourself that you may never have thought was there. You'll find something in yourself that I think is in everybody. But most people don't get a chance to find or experience that. And I think it's important, and I think that's why art is so important. It's one of the areas where you can help people to find that. And I think everyone is creative. I think everyone has a creative aspect to who they are and to what they can do. And I think it not only is in terms of the arts, but being able to have that sense of the creativeness in yourself can help you in so many other ways and so many other things. And I think it's even with families. Are you a creative parent? What does that mean? And I said, that's part of what it's all about. And I think having that kind of attitude, encourages other people, particularly children. It encourages them to kind of want to do that too. And I think that's what it really has to do with art. But with artists, with people who want to pursue the arts, I think the important thing for them is to stick to it, pursue it. There are going to be lots of hard times. And certainly with our dance company, there were difficult times. But, if you continue and stick to what you really want to do and what you believe in and what you think you can do, you'll do okay. You'll do okay. It's just don't be too hard on yourself and give up. Stay with it. That's the important thing.
Absolutely. So with that, Julia, do you have any questions? Does anyone have any questions from the audience before we close down for this wonderful night?
I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. It was amazing hearing from you.
Oh, I'm happy I could be here.
I'm happy you could be here too.
At first, but we got it solved.
So with that, I hope everyone has a wonderful night. Thank you so much, Luz, for being on. I look forward to seeing you MC on May 22nd. Everyone, May 22nd is the Governor's Awards. Woo! And and with that, I hope everyone stays safe, everyone stays happy, and I hope everyone has a great night and a great weekend.
Thank you so much. And thank everybody out there.